Hey everyone, welcome to the Mighty Books Podcast, where we sit down and chat with mighty authors about their books, message, writing successes, struggles, and other relevant authorship topics. I'm your host, Ryan M. Oliver, author of the Beasts of Men and Gods series. Now let's get started on today's chat. This week's featured author is Sean Brown. In 1993, this Los Angeles native took his talents to Texas, Colorado, England, Korea, and Washington State as a member of the U.S. Air Force. After being medically retired from the Air Force, he found his way into the Naval Reserves, where he spent 10 years in San Diego. In 2015, almost 22 years from the day he headed into the military, Sean retired. The Iraq and Afghanistan War veteran hung up his boots and perused a career in dance fitness and wellness coaching. It is in these ventures that Sean realized he had a gift of reaching people through his down-to-earth, realistic approach to life and fitness. He began writing inspirational messages on his Inspiration with Sean Puffy Brown Facebook page. As his following grew, Sean had one more big step to make, which he completed on Mother's Day 2017. With the help of his good friend, he self-published his book of thoughts titled Just a Thought. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have Sean Brown. Sean, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous.
Excellent. I love hearing that. I absolutely love hearing that. So we're here to talk about your book, sir. What is the title of your book?
The first one is called Just a Thought.
Mm-hmm. And what is this Just a Thought book about?
It is literally my thoughts. That's what it's about. It's my thought about life. It's what I thought about random things. The first one's from 2010 to 2014. The year it spans that 4 years, and it was just my random thoughts. And so it was just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Or thoughts, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, it should be thoughts, but we should only read one at a time.
Yeah.
So it was just a thought.
Well, and I noticed at the very end, a lot of your thoughts, it just says just a thought. So it makes sense to me anyway. Sense to me anyway. So what inspired
I wasn't very
you
clever with my title.
I thought it was just fine.
I like it, but I wasn't clever with it. I wasn't like being Shakespearean,
Right.
He who thought, well, I don't know. I was like, it's just a thought. When my business partner and friend April helped me put it together, she said, what do you want to name it? I'm like, just a thought. That's what it was.
There you go. As long if you like it, if it works, it's awesome. That works very well. So what inspired you to just publish your thoughts?
That's kind of a layered thing, I think. When I first put my book together, and I won't go into all that, maybe when you ask next question. Sure. When I published when I started writing my thoughts again, I said it was 2010 when I started writing my thoughts, and I was actually in Afghanistan. And the reason I started writing my thoughts, I guess I will say this. The reason I started writing my thoughts was I realized I was giving advice to a lot of different people, the same advice from people from different walks of life. And I just started, I'm like, somebody else might want to hear this. And I'm in an active war zone. I'm the only person from my unit at the base I'm at. I'm going through struggles. My wife and I were going through our own little crap at the time, as marriages tend to do. And I was pretty sure she was going to murder me. She didn't, thankfully. But I started writing, Sean's thought. And it was a interesting thing, and it was like just a thought, Okay. And people started responding to it. So over the years, I met, like I said, I mentioned earlier, my business partner, April, and she's a high school teacher, an English teacher. And I just was like, hey, you should know how to do book. And so like, you want to help me put a book together? Because people kept saying how much I should put these words into a book. And so the English teacher who did not know how to put a book together, don't stereotype English teachers that way. We figured it out and we put a book out. And in 2017, we did the book.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And so that was how it became. I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will read it, and it's kind of where we went. That was literally it. Can you put a book together? Man, no, but we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think I'm 3 books in. April's 1 book in, and we're working on another. And I have another, I think, in the works. I have no idea if I really believe that or not, but it's 2017. So there you go. I think that was a long-winded way of saying it just happened.
Okay. I like it. Whatever. Long-winded's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's cool. And as we already had prior to hitting record, I think we both can be a little long-winded, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just, we care.
It's better than stale air.
I guess, yeah. So you said you have 2 more books. Can you talk about those a little bit, please?
So Just a Thought 2, TOO, which really upsets April. All my book titles upset April, by the way. I say her name a lot because she's the reason I have books. Just a Thought 2 continues my first, it's actually a 3-parter. It continues my first lines of thought. So book 1 is literally the chronological order of my thoughts from 2010 to 2014. Just a Thought 2 continues that from 2014 to 2018 or 17, 18. I don't know. I haven't read it. I don't like to read. And then the second part is I started blogging on my website. So I do blogs. So I actually added the first 8 or so blogs that I wrote in there. And then the back end, I do inspirational stuff with pictures. I love pictures, and they inspire me to share some inspirational thing, like I think wisdom, I don't know. And so the back part is a bunch of pictures with these sayings and small sayings, or some are long, or poetics and things like that. And so that's book 2. And then book 3, literally tree, TREE, again,
No.
which really, really, really upsets the English teacher who is my business partner, which was hilarious to me. When I told we put this book together, and this book is just photos, and it's a photo book based off of, because people really liked the 3rd part of book 2, and they're like, I love your pictures, your photos are so great, and they're cell phone photography, and this was born out of something I created during one of those inspirational moments, which is called Let Me, which stands for Live Every Tiny Moment Exceptionally. I know this podcast is not visual, but you can see it. I actually have a shirt on that says it. And so the 3rd book is about living every tiny moment exceptionally. There are pictures from all over the world, and most of them are with my cell phone. And people are like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And it was born out of the idea that people think you have to go places to see beauty. I got to go to Hawaii. I want to get away. When I first moved back to Washington, I took pictures all the time, and people were like, "Oh my God, I love that. I wish I can get away." And where is that at? And I'm like, "That's Gorst, which is a little blip going from Port Orchard to Bremerton. Like it's a speed check is what it is." And I would stop in Gorst and take these pictures of the sunrise over Port Orchard, and I would take the pictures and of these things that are, and it was all about the angle that I took a picture from. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Oh, where are you at?" And I'm like, Beach Drive, which is the street along a road to get along the water here in Port Orchard. And it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Well, yeah, you don't have to go anywhere to see beauty. And so that's kind of the burden.
Right. It's all perspective. It really is. I mean, like, I saw this thing the other day, and it had a thing. I was like, you got 2 kids growing up in the same house. Let's say the dad's an alcoholic. The first son grows up, and he's also an alcoholic. Like, well, why did he become an alcoholic? Well, I looked at my father. You look at the second son, and he goes, and he hasn't drank a single drop of alcohol. He goes, well, why didn't you drink? He goes, because I watched my father. Yep. They're looking at the same area, the same person in this instance, and they have 2 different perspectives. It's all about where you're looking at. It's all your mindset.
Oh, absolutely. I talk about, we do workshops for personal growth, and I actually talk about that quite a bit, is that you can grow up in the same situation, or it doesn't even have to be growing up. If you listen to a report of something, an incident that happened, 20 people will have 20 different versions of that report. There will be things that are solid. If it was a car crash, cars crashed. That, so that part would be understood. But Somebody might have been like, the driver wasn't paying attention. They were on their phone. Somebody else was like, oh, that person cut them off. Somebody might be like, oh, it was going too fast. Somebody else would say, oh, it was going too slow. And everybody. So you look at all these things, you go, man, how do we have 20 different things? Because everybody views it differently. So yes, I absolutely agree. It is about perspective, and that's what we talk about all the time, is perspective.
Yeah.
And when you have that, when you realize that it's about perspective, it kind of changes the way you look at life.
Yeah. Just that little mindset change can really, it can make you sour, or it can make you sweet in a way. I mean,
Absolutely.
Elevate you to getting things done and being happy with your life, or being miserable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned workshops. Can you talk about what workshops you do?
Yeah, we do workshops on communication, which I have to revisit because I've had some tough communications over the last year. I need to go to my own workshop apparently. Communication we do on how we focus on our lives. I mean, everything I write, everything we do, April, and I say we, so that's April, and every time I say we, it's April and I. Whenever we do something, it is about, I believe that growth comes from you. The whole point of my first book is a reflection. You are understanding yourself, then you can understand others, and you can apply it to others. We want to pass love, we want to pass, understanding, and yet we don't understand ourselves. And so how do we teach our children that? How do we have compassion for others when we don't understand? So we talk about discipline. One is self-discipline. And of course, they're all blank in my head now because I haven't done one in a year. Actually, we're working on a new one. Actually, right now, April and I are working on a new one. Her first joint one, which is about expectations, understanding expectations, and why that is harmful. How we have expectations for others, and we put them on people, and then we're upset about them, and we use that. So it's about, all the workshops are about your personal growth from your own standing. And if you fix what's in, then you can give what's out. If that makes sense. Like a lot of people they read self-help books and they, oh my God, I have these things, and they share memes and they're great with all these things. And they go, this is so me. And I go, well, how does it apply? And how can you apply that? How can you look at this differently? When you communicate, are you listening to understand, or you're listening to talk? Right. And so that's kind of like, it's all layered through, again, goes to talking about books. It's all layered through the books that are written, is about, here's an opinion. How can you utilize that?
Right.
How can you, so that's kind of where, and that's what was born out of the workshops. How can I look at life a little differently and then be better?
Okay.
Be better for me, because it isn't about better for other people. Like, oh, I want to be better. Now, if you're an alcoholic, you say, I want to get clean for my family. That's not going to work. It's just simply not. I want to be better for my children. Doesn't work. For my wife. I mean, you and I are both married. For my wife, doesn't work. I have to be better for me. When I'm better for me, then it works, because I'm not holding my success on someone else's opinion.
Right.
Or someone else's gain, or someone else saying it, but I'm also understanding the value of what other people give me.
Yeah.
And that's that value, and the value of it. And it's an amazing thing when you stop and think, and we're all works in progress. There was air quotes there for the people listening.
There were.
Gotta have the air quotes. But people always say, oh, I'm a work in progress, and you're not. I disagree with that. I absolutely disagree with, and so this is where the workshops come from. You're not broken. We're not. If we don't know any better, we don't know any better. My kids are all grown. My two boys are grown. But if I had a 2-year-old, the 2-year-old doesn't know how to drive. That doesn't mean they're broken. You know what I mean? They don't know how to drive. So if I don't know how to express myself, emotionally because of all the crap I've been through, I'm not broken. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of same thing where, you're learning, and once you learn, you know better. If you know better and you don't do it, then it's choice.
Right.
And so that's kind of where that comes from. And so everything comes back to that. It's, and that's one of my favorite words is choice.
Awesome. So basically, I mean, what it sounds to me is like like you said, you're not broken. We're almost like, I'm gonna use like a plant, a tree, for instance. You're not broken because you don't know, you're not over here, you're not doing this, you haven't learned this skill yet. You're just growing.
Yes.
You're just growing.
Yeah. You're learning. We're sponges. We learn. To wrap it back to my first book, the whole point of the book wasn't to be like, look how smart Sean is. Somebody thinks I'm an idiot, right? Somebody thinks I'm I'm an idiot, and I'm like, and that's okay. They're probably right, but somebody else thinks I'm a genius. And why does somebody think? Why do I have those two sides of things? Because I know something that resonates with someone. I know something that doesn't resonate with someone else.
Exactly.
So when I give people, here's an opinion, and the way my first book is written is so you can have a conversation with yourself. That's a starting point. It's only a starting point. So I know you read the book or looked at the book, mm-hmm. and you see that it is written in passages. It's written in a way so you can write in the book.
Yeah.
So you can have a conversation with yourself going, oh, this is where I think about this, or this is what because we are always in a constant state of learning, relearning, unsubscribing, because this one in the digital age, to something we had believed. I mean, you grew up as a devout religious person, and then you no longer follow that. So you have now unsubscribed to that belief. That doesn't make you a worse person or a better person. It makes you different because you've learned something new.
Yeah.
If you believed in something, that the Dobermans were the best thing ever and they should be worshipped, and you're like, Dobermans are not good dogs. And you're like, oh my God, I don't need to support those anymore. You've learned something new, and it's changed where you are.
Exactly.
It isn't because you were broken or you were ignorant or you were stupid or you're like,
yes. You haven't had that knowledge passed by you before. You haven't, as you said, communicated. You haven't listened to that information. Maybe you took it in and took it to heart.
Yes. Yeah. We learn through our lives. My father's a very wise man. He always gave great advice. I still use it. And he was super flawed. Actually, I'm thinking about writing a blog about him now. Recently, I don't know. But the man had so much street wisdom, and that I still use to this day. And I've been gone from my home since I was 18. Yeah. I'm 50 now, mm-hmm. right? So, and I still use it. Because we understand life and the things that we get out of life. Everyone has a different perspective, to go take it back to what you were just talking about a minute ago, perspective of life, mm-hmm. And so it's like, how do I share that? How do I get people to understand that aspect of life? Thing.
Yeah, so. just repetition and hopefully you put it out there for them. And if they take it, great. If they don't, then that's on them at that point.
Yep. Well, you don't have to use, there's a thing in Buddhism that says, take what you need and leave the rest.
Yeah.
It says, take what you need and leave the rest. We are in a society where we take what we need and then take the rest. And we're like, oh my God, I have all these things. I need it all. And it's such a heavy weight to mm-hmm. carry. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, I got to have all this, and it has to fit perfectly, because if it doesn't fit perfectly, then it's wrong and it's broken and it's evil and it's bad and you're just like, that's not what works. That's not how life works. Mm-hmm. Everything's got to be perfect, and we believe that, and it's not true. And then we're going, why are we, quote unquote, air quotes again, broken? Right? And you're like, because your perspective is off. Mm-hmm.
Change. So with your workshops, is that where your motivational speaking comes into play? Because I did see you're a motivational speaker. Is that when you do your speeches is in the workshops, or is that a separate deal?
It's a separate deal. We don't, and again, I blame April for this. I go and I've spoken at schools. I've actually spoken at events because apparently I have a gift of gab and a way of painting life. That is what I'm told. That is not my arrogance saying I do. I do not understand why people listen to me half the time. But April makes me talk to kids, and I'm going to tell a family secret. I don't like children, so it's very painful, but The funny thing is, April is, like I said, a teacher, and she actually used my book for one of her classes, my first book for one of her classes back in 2018, and it was a class of kids who were reluctant readers,
Right.
and they really grabbed onto this book, and they were loving it, the verbiage and everything, and she actually used them. All those kids graduated. I was so impressed. She's an amazing teacher, and it's not about her, but what happened was they wanted to meet me. And so I came to the class and I talked to these kids, and we had this great old conversation with them, and they were challenging me or trying to, and it was fun. And then they wanted me to come back, and I went back, and those kids made me change an opinion that I had for many years about them. Like, oh, kids are a pain in the butt. And I went, these kids don't know any better.
Yeah.
They might have been taught this, right or wrong, don't touch the stove. I mean, as an 18-year-old, you should know don't touch the stove. But how they were taught is different.
Mm-hmm.
And how they can apply that is different, right? And I'm like, when you give someone a tool and teach them how to use it, and they use it, now you see that they have a skill. And so I stopped saying the kids are bad and going, they don't know any better.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because, and I was the bad kid in school. I was the troublemaker in school, the class clown, if you will. Shocker, I know. But going to that class and seeing those kids gave me an idea of, it is not my place to say they're wrong. It's my place to say, here's the wisdom to teach that. If you don't want it, okay. You know, and like I told the kids, I'm like, at the end of this school year, you either fail or pass. And I say, April, Miss, her last name, is going to go on vacation. She's going to come back and she's going to have a next set of students next year. And she's going to, and whether you live or die will not matter. Mm-hmm. And that's a harsh reality, but it's the truth. And once you kind of understand, like, you live for you. And so teaching those kids and being around those kids and seeing them change and grow. You know, I got to go to the graduation that year. I was forced to go to the graduation that year. And a couple of those kids came up to me and was like, Mr. Brown, you know, I'm graduating. And one of those kids who April did not think was going to graduate, not only graduated, but was doing college courses and got his brother into college courses. Now that has nothing, that's not my book. I'm not saying my book did that, because I think April's an amazing teacher. And she connected those kids. However, I know that my book bridged a gap, ironically, from what they were trying to get to Shakespeare. I don't know. That's, again, amazing teacher. So it's an amazing thing when you stop and go, okay, my belief, what I understand, may be flawed. Mm-hmm. Because that's what we do. We our beliefs are our beliefs, but we have to be willing to say this may be flawed.
Right. Right.
And so those kids gave me a whole different aspect. And so now I do talking to kids as well, which I don't want to, but I do it because apparently I'm good at it. But I like to talk to adults.
Well, I found that with kids and adults, because I've taught public school, young age kids. I mean, K through 12.
Okay,
with subbing and everything, and I had my own class for a little bit of time. But now I teach adults. Regardless of what age group, they can tell when you're BSing them. I mean, they can tell when you're just throwing fluff at them for no reason. If you're talking to them straight, they have a tendency to listen a little better. Like, I'll tell the people I work with. So I train people on, PPE and different safety habits that are very important in an industrial work environment. Guys, I tell them, guys, it doesn't matter to me at all. I don't lose any sleep. I have no problem. If you don't use what I taught you here, that's on you.
Yes.
You have the skin in the game. Your life, at the end of your career, if you're inhaling all these terrible, nasty things, if you're doing these terrible, bad habits around these, huge, very dangerous areas, you might succumb to some serious health problems later. Will that affect me? No, because I've given you the information. It's your decision whether or not to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kids, I swear, they're like bloodhounds with the truth. They can smell you out like, no, he's got it right. He's not, not on point. and they will gravitate towards that. If they even sense that you care enough, that you want to see them succeed, oh, they'll be best friends.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Yeah. Well, you got to have, and again, I know I keep saying her name, but we talk about this quite a bit. And I think about it, and April's used this in her class and with talking about her students, and I've used this in life. You got to have or be a safe space. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you got to protect people. That's not your job. But when they come into your space, they have to believe that they can be honest, that you're going to give them good feedback, not what they want to hear, what they need to hear. I get sick of people saying we go to people who are just going to tell us what we want to hear. And I'm like, no, you need to tell them the truth. Like I told those kids, I'm like, in 20 years, some of you in here will be dead in jail. Some of you will have a serious, massive disease. And, some of you will be living in poverty. Some will be successful. There's 20 of you. You will likely not talk to some of you. And like, I went to this whole laundry list of things to say that is life. Mm-hmm. And what you got is now, and what you can do with it is now. But if you don't understand it, like, here's a safe space. And I'm like, April is here for you guys. Like, I've seen her do this. I'm here when I talk to someone, I talk to them with an honesty and integrity of the moment. I'm a fitness instructor. I teach dance fitness classes, and I hear students all the time. And most of the people in my classes, in my workshop, or our workshops, are women. Mm-hmm. And women are traditionally I need to be better, because we teach in society that it's not good enough, and they teach themselves and they reinforce that stereotype. And so I tell them, like, no, here's the truth about that. Here's the truth about scales and numbers. Here's the truth about body size and having to work out. Here's the truth about, do I look fat in this and all this crap that we say. And when you stop, you get out of your own way and go, okay, here's a safe space for me to talk to this person. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy. I'm a guy. I'm a stereotypical guy. I just, again, and I know there's a lot of opinion on what all these things are, but I am I'll get my hands dirty. I'll go pick up stuff. My wife and my business partner, April, they get to walk on the inside of me when we're walking in on a sidewalk. So I'm next to traffic. I will open the door for them, like, and that's not that's not stereotyping and not going, women can't do it. None of that. It is just it's what I do. I'm like, I will make sure that they're in a safer place than I am.
Yeah.
But people still come talk to me. And I have a lot of people who would do that because of the honesty, of the integrity of the moment.
Yep.
And that's what for the kids, back to the kids, circling it back, they need. Mm-hmm. They need the integrity, and they need the honesty, and they need the tough love. And somebody that says, no, the reason you didn't do well in this is because you were being stupid.
Mm-hmm. You were not being smart in that moment.
That is the answer. And, if you choose to be stupid, then you choose to be stupid.
Well, we always, for our kids, it's always it's never a put down. We always go, we know you're smarter than this. We know you're intelligent. Yes. So why did you make this decision? Why? We always say, we know this is where you're at, because
yes,
we have very bright kids.
Yes.
And they're good boys. So it's like, why, you're a good kid. Why did you make that decision? Why did you do that? And so then they almost guiltfully, like, they think I'm good. And I have to tell them why I did something bad. And then it resonates with them. Like, I want to be good. I want to be good for myself. I want to be good so I'm not feeling like this. Yeah. Be good for my mom and dad, be good for my brother, be good for my family. So it starts with the person, starts with the individual.
Yeah. Then you have to be good for you.
Yeah. You have to be.
You have to be. I told my youngest boy, I said, I don't care what you be in life. Mm-hmm. Just say, this is what I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can be a janitor. You can be a doctor. You can be anything you want to be. I don't care. Yeah. Understand that it's your choice and you have to deal with it. Understand that I'm not taking care of babies because I don't like kids. Understand that I'm not paying your way through everything because I don't have no money. So, but once you grow up, everything is your responsibility. It isn't because your parents were crap. It isn't because life, I have a rule of, I call it 18-1, 18-1. And I should actually technically 36-1. Which is when people say they've had a bad childhood, they had a bad upbringing, they had all these things that went horrible in life. And again, this is in somewhere in one of those dang books. Have a horrible life. They have, at 36 years and 1 day, they have now been an adult longer than they were a kid. And 36 years and 1 day, you have now exceeded the time that your horrible parents, your horrible childhood, your horrible whatever. And somebody's psychologist will say, oh, but your formative years. I'm like, again, you have now had all this time to address your whatever you were thinking and to find a better circle, to support, find that support, whether it's through psychology, whether, therapy, or, understanding, breaking traditions and barriers and bad habits and, alcoholism, whatever. At 36-1 day, you can no longer blame it on horrible mom. Mm-hmm. You can no longer blame it on horrible conditions. You can no longer blame it on, that I was this and this and this. That doesn't mean that it's perfect, but you've been alive as an adult longer. I am almost 50 years old. I cannot go back and blame my mom and dad for my crappy life, right? Because I've literally been alive 3 more times or close to it than I spent my time at home.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just that ownership.
Yeah. And that's also another workshop we have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ownership. Yeah.
Take ownership. I mean, take extreme ownership in some instances, like, hey, this failed. It was technically out of my control, but it's my fault. Don't feel bad about it. It's like, hey, this is my fault. I could have changed it. I could have done something different. Don't play the victim. That playing the victim, it's just a spiral, a cycle. Eventually it's going to drown you in negativity. You don't want that. You want motivation to go through your life and fix whatever you want to fix.
Yeah.
And right yourself, grow in the right way.
Yeah.
You're not broken. You just have to grow in the other way. You know what I mean?
You don't want to if you shoot yourself in the foot with a nail gun,
ow,
you hope that you would know that, hey, pointing a nail gun at my foot is a bad idea.
Learning occurred.
So if you just grazed your foot with a nail gun, you go, man, I should probably not do that. And then you shoot your foot in a nail gun, then you did not learn from the experience. Right. You might learn once that nail went through your skin, but now it's a different experience. Like sometimes we don't have to feel the pain to understand. Like I speak to women, and the majority of my people in my workshops and everything are women, and I talk about things that are very female specific, right? And they're like, well, you can't experience that. You don't. And you're right. I do not know how to experience childbirth. I don't understand. Like it's not me. I'm not capable.
Can't do it.
However, I can speak on it. And I'm really good at taking that information and bringing it in a way that's relatable. But if you only look at me as the guy, then you don't hear the words.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if we and so I have to be able to say, here's what I've learned, because I talk to women. Guess what? I'm being taught a lot of things from women's perspective. And if I don't learn how to speak on that, then I didn't learn anything. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, so when I start to talk about those things I'm sharing that information. I'm sharing that ideology. I'm sharing my understanding, not to say that I'm right, but to say, here's what I understand. Now, you may have a different way of learning. So like, hey, shooting yourself in the foot with a nail gun is a good idea. I don't know why, but tell me why you believe that. I don't move.
So I got an interesting theory on that. I heard this years ago. I can't remember where I heard it from, but I use it all the time when talking about kids and just learning life in general. It's called the pet bench theory.
Okay.
All right. So imagine yourself, you're walking through a beautiful park. It's a nice summer day. You see a park bench. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hey, a good place to sit, right? Oh, there's a sign next to it. It's actually roped off. It says wet paint, don't sit. Okay. So there are those people. My oldest son, for instance, he would see this, read the sign, and go, "That bench is covered in wet paint. I'm not going to sit on it." So he walks away and finds a different park bench, because that's type 1. Type 2, this is my second son, by the way. He will go see this same instance, see the wet bench sign, and go, "Is it really wet?" Put his hand on it. Oh, look at that. It is wet. And then find another place. Then you got person number 3, who doesn't even see the wet bench sign, forgoes the rope, and sits down on the park bench anyway, covering their rear end in wet paint. That I'm like, that kind of covers most people.
Yeah. Yeah. We there are some who believe, some who suspect, and some who don't notice.
Mm-hmm.
There's many variations of that. There's many variations of that. There's many layers into that. But the truth is, we either understand it, or we question it, or we deny it, or we deny it.
Yeah.
So, and we have to be willing. We have to be willing to say that is understand where we are in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And also, and I think this is the biggest thing. And again, this is the biggest thing. And again, goes all the way back to the writing and everything. We also have to be willing to be wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
To not know better.
Having grace in when you know you are wrong, having the courage to say, "Yep, I was not correct. I was fed the wrong information. I've had the wrong opinion for so many years because of whatever experience you dealt with." That takes a serious amount of courage to go, "You know what? I was not correct in this instance. You brought me the right information. And I appreciate that." I've found more people respond so well to that than trying to push an incorrect thought. Like, you know what, you have a right. And then all of a sudden I've made an ally, a friend with that person, because I'm trusting their information. I've looked into it, and then I've honestly said, I've come up and going, wow, I admit I had faults. And as soon as you admit to people that you have faults, like, "Oh, you're human too, we can be buddies."
Yeah. I think there's I talk about this quite often. We make right and wrong black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell, and I say to people, I have my opinions, and they're very strong. If you read my book, I have my opinions, right? I have my opinions. They're very strong. They're not sugarcoat. I tell you what I think,
mm-hmm.
right? And somebody says, "Well, this is what I think." And I always say, we talk to people like a toddler, like a 5-year-old. 2 to 5-year-old. So you talk to people like a toddler. If you talk to people like a toddler and you say, why? The majority of people can only go about 3 layers deep on why. Why do you believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this? Why should I believe this? Why do we go? And so you ask them, most people can go 3 layers deep before they get to just because. When you speak, you tell me that my opinion that the Doberman is God. I use my Doberman God from earlier, sure. Right? And you go, "Well, that's not God." Okay, well, tell me why. And so you started telling me your opinion and your facts have to be strong enough to convince me that my thoughts are wrong.
Right.
And I can still be correct in my thoughts and not be correct. Mm. And there's levels of that. I talked about earlier with the car crash and 20 people's perspective.
Yeah.
Everyone is correct in their view.
Yeah.
Not one of them is correct in the actual action, what happened, because you can't see everything. And so we pretend that, "Oh, well, you were wrong in your way of thinking." Like, no, there's levels. There's levels to being wrong. I may not have understood everything. Doesn't make me wrong.
Right.
Right. I may not have understood what
mm-hmm.
but it doesn't make me wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And you go, "Oh, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about sharing the perspective and saying, okay, we literally want people to just say, 'Oh, you're right.'" Mm-hmm. That's how we communicate.
Yeah.
I want to be right. And that's not how life works, because your perspective of life is totally different than mine. Mm-hmm. And we can't share those aspects in those conversations and those pieces because we don't want to hear.
Basically, we got to be open to everyone's perspective. Because like I said, you might be right in your instance from your experiences, and I might be right from my experiences but if we come together and go, "Well, there's how many shades of gray here?" It's like in this instance, yes, he was correct. In this instance, he was wrong, but I'm correct. But we're not. Both of us are right to a point,
Yes.
and we just have to. It's kind of teamwork on figuring out, getting all the facts, getting all the information, and just trying not to be sensitive about the fact that you might not be right all the time. It just, it's just how life is.
And emotion. Like I'll tell a quick story. When the Me Too movement, hashtag Me Too movement, was really prominent several years back, on internet, a woman was like, "Oh man," or da da da. She's really, really bashful, and so I had commented on this post, and I essentially was giving a guy's perspective. I did not negate the woman's perspective. I was giving a guy's perspective. In fact, I actually wrote a blog around that same time that I might mention. But anyway, this girl just hammered me. You piece of crap. Blah, blah. And so it was funny on this social media post, all these women started saying, he didn't say what you are saying he said, right? And so eventually the girl's like, well, I was just upset. Now I can't see what you're saying. But I stopped talking. Her message wasn't one for hearing anything. She just needed me to say that she was right.
Right.
You know, all men are evil and we're bad and we're a bunch of rapists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't believe that. Right. I'm a man and I don't believe in my life I've ever raped anybody. So nope. I understood. I'm like, I'm men. Yeah. Right. Whether I'm trans man or man, I'm man. I'm man and I've never raped anybody. So when you say man are, you're putting me in that thing.
That puts everybody on the same umbrella, which we're not.
Yes. So. But she went off on this thing. And I was impressed by all the women who responded, was like, you didn't read what he wrote.
Yeah.
You didn't read, because she was so pissed off that she needed. And I got that. And I was like, okay, here's an opportunity for me to speak, not to attack. I didn't attack like, ooh, well, you women are just, because that's stupid. It doesn't do any good. But I mentioned the blog I wrote. I wrote a blog and it was called I Didn't Know I Was a Rapist. I posted it. My business partner, April, is also my editor. She edits all the things because I write one time. If you ever read my writing, you'd be like, oh, that's not always English because I failed English in school. And so anyway, she read it and she was like, this is powerful. And so she shared it. She doesn't share a lot on her social media. And I still remember today, one of her cohorts, friends, said his blog triggered me. And she was like, why did it trigger you?
Yeah.
Just because I'm a guy. I'm a heterosexual guy. Yeah. I can turn anything sexualized. Everything is bad. You can turn bad. I'm a military guy, right? Everything, and that doesn't mean it's just because I'm a military guy, I'm supposed to be that way, but I can turn anything horrible. But I did it, and it wasn't about that. The friend couldn't believe that I wrote this thing, but she never read the blog. She never finished reading it because it was never a blog about attacking women and attacking the idea of quote unquote Me Too. It was literally written to show a guy's perspective from the same thing, because there are a lot of things that are complained about that happens to males.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here's a perspective. This had nothing to do with attacking the notion that ladies and women have a much more likely to have a serious attack. It was about perspective.
Right. You're not hitting their experience. You're not hating on their experience, not hurting their experience. You say, hey, here's your experience. Here's what guys, well, from my perspective, what a guy could go through in this instance.
And I open it, and when I write something, I write it, you can talk to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, tell me what you think. I will respond to anyone who intelligently responds to me. That's the reason my book exists. That's the reason all my books exist. That's the reason I blog. I don't care about numbers. I care about people taking a moment to think.
Right.
And so it was very funny. That blog got some love and got ignored by a lot, because I am your listeners can't see, or you see a picture. I am a 5'11", 270-pound black guy. heterosexual, just right, grunty. I'm cheerful and cheery, and I look scary all at the same time.
He seems to me like a teddy bear.
Right, I am. I rather share joy than anything else. Remember, let me. I created that for a reason.
Yeah,
but I also understand my other side. When you look at that and you stereotype it, we stereotype what we see, then all of a sudden we close our mind to hearing.
Yeah.
We close our mind to hearing, and we're like, no, I can't take it. And so my friend's triggered friend closed her mind to hearing. The girl on social media, she closed her mind to hearing. She wasn't interested in a conversation. She was interested in being right.
Yeah. When we get to that point, you've lost at that point. You're like, you've lost my attention. If someone's just trying to get those, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, that's not what this is about.
No,
it's about coming to an understanding, collective understanding that things are hard. What you experienced was terrible. I want to express what I've been through too.
Yes.
We can come together and hopefully grow as, a partnership or friends or just, humans in general.
I saw a meme once and it said, it said, arguing with people with certain opinions, I'm not going to say that part, is like playing chess with a pigeon. Because no matter how well you play, the pigeon's just going to knock all the stuff off the chessboard and strut around like it won. It doesn't matter what you do. If you're right or wrong, you can't argue with somebody you can't discuss with somebody who doesn't want to hear a different opinion.
Yes.
You can't negotiate with a person in rage. You have to bring them down slowly.
Yep.
The logic is not going to be the thing where people are like, oh my God, in our country here, we had the thing with the Capitol, and people are like, oh, these morons. I'm like, not everybody there was morons. Yeah. I go, understand that once you get to a certain point, you will do things that resonates in that point. Doesn't make you this and that. There are people in jail for murder, for things like that, that is not their character. That's not who they are. That's what they were capable of.
Yeah. Yes.
And understanding what I'm capable of. I understand I'm capable. And if I'm capable, then I understand life better. And then when I understand me, and again, it comes all the way back to what I talked about at the beginning, when I come from me, when I understand me, then I'm willing. There's times when my mind is closed.
Yes.
There's times when I'm not ready to hear that. And I'm like, you know what? It ain't time for me to talk about that. That girl on the social media, it was not time for her to talk about that, but she put it on social media because she needed to say it, but didn't want anybody to hear it. And when I talk to my friends, I say, what do you want from me? Do you want me to just listen? You want me to respond? Do you want me to tell you my opinion? Because I'm always a fixer. I'm always going to give you an opinion that I think will make this thing better.
Yes.
Right. And so, and I'm like, if you tell me that, then that's what I would do.
Right.
Because again, back to expectations. If you tell me that, but if you expected me to just go, oh, well, that's just, well, okay. Terrible. Thoughts and prayers. If that's what you wanted, then tell me. I'll tell you thoughts and prayers and go back and drinking my coffee and playing Candy Crush. I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about communication. Mm-hmm. That's the thing about expectation. That's the thing about understanding. That's the thing about I'm really good about layering this crap together.
You are. Full circle. It's coming full circle.
Yeah, I do this. I try my best. If I don't, April will beat me. She won't. She's gonna be mad that I said that. My wife will be happy that I didn't say she will. So I can only make one woman happy at a time, apparently. And normally I don't do either. So
we can only do what we can do, right?
Right. I try my best. I mow the lawn.
Show up. So coming full circle.
Come full circle.
What do you want at the end of the day, at the end of your life, at the end of everything you've done and gone through? What do you want people to experience and get out from reading your books?
That's a very simple answer.
Okay.
From reading my books, watching my videos, reading the blog, watching the show, or Let Me the Journey show with April and I, all of it, any of it comes down to one thing. I hope that people will pause, will contemplate, will think, and maybe learn something different that they may not have learned before. When it's all said and done and end of life, I'll be philosophical for a second. When it's all said and done at the end of life, I talk to people all the time and I tell them this: life, none of this matters. None of the things we build, none of this grand, collection of crap that we get to be a billionaire and all these things. And, I can travel all over the world. 1/bazillionth of a second after I stop breathing, I will not care about life. People are like, my legacy. The legacy doesn't matter. It doesn't, because you won't care. I mean, if you believe in a higher power, you believe in there's a heaven. We'll use heaven as an example. If you believe in heaven, when you go to heaven, then you will not remember this space, because that would be sadness, and sadness is not supposed to be in the next place. So it doesn't matter. And when we realize that life, none of this matters, then I say, okay, I get to choose what matters. I get to choose how I look at the world. I get to choose how I'm present in the world. I get to choose how life gives me and what I take from it.
Right.
Because whether I participate or not, the world exists. Whether I've created Picasso paintings or the most beautiful music, or I've collected all the money or conquered half the world like Genghis Khan, it doesn't matter. It literally, those people, people were powerful people. We see it right now in our country. Powerful people are some of the most fragile in our existence. They have all the money and all the power, and they're still not happy. What do we teach ourselves? We need money, power, and happiness. That's how we get happy, and yet they're not happy. Why? Because money doesn't bring happiness. No. Family is like, family brings happiness. No, you bring happiness. So what I want people to get from my reading my crap, I'm done being philosophical, is
I don't believe that for a second.
Okay. I was done at that moment. I want people to think, and stop and to understand that the person we talk to in the mirror is the person we have to understand.
I love it.
And so when I bring those thoughts to the paper, and I'm trying to get somebody to think and trying to get somebody to see perspective and my perspective, and whether it's right or wrong, is to say, okay, so how does that affect me?
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's why we created Let Me, and that's why we have Let Me the Journey now, as a show, and it's a ridiculous show, and it's fun, because we're like, life is beautiful. It isn't where you are, it's how you see it.
Yeah.
Man, damn it, I did it again. Sorry. I get philosophical all the time.
I told you. I said I didn't believe you.
I can't help it. I get philosophical all the time.
That's fine. If it makes you happy and you enjoy it in the present moment, that's good. That's exactly what you've been talking about the whole time.
I'm telling you, I do it. That's it. I'm trying. Like, what can make me happy? Brownies. I have those. I cooked them yesterday. That makes me happy.
Jealous much.
Yes. I cooked brownies. Like, you're a fitness instructor. You're damn right. And I will eat brownies, and I will be fat and happy. And you know what? And I will die. I'm not going to die because I ate kale chips. I don't like kale chips. I want freaking brownies. I said freaking. I want brownies.
You're good.
Well, I want to keep your PG rating.
Yeah. If it happens to go off a little bit, well, things happen, right?
It does.
All right. So very last question, roundabout. Where can people grab copies of your books?
Well, you can get a signed copy from my book from Sean's-thoughts.com. You can buy any of our books. It will come through, and April's, I should also say, A Pononoko and the Lonely Tree. But you can buy Sean, Just a Thought 2, and Just a Thought Tree from our website. Again, Sean's with an S-thoughts.com. And you can actually read my blog. You can read that blog. I didn't know I was a rapist. Check it out. It's a powerful one, I think. Find us. I love hearing from people. Unless it's stupid, I will not. I will just delete it and keep moving. Life is short. I don't have time for stupid.
Yeah.
I have time to help people understand things. I do not have time for stupid.
Yeah.
I just, again, sorry. That popped in my head.
That's okay. Sean, this has been really fun. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. This has been good stuff.
How many minutes? There we go.
55.
You said 35. I told you I could do it. I would go by that.
I told you if we went long, we went long, so it's okay. I don't care. We enjoyed the moment.
We did. We lived every tiny moment exceptionally. Product plug. I love it.
Beautiful. Yes. And visit YouTube and there, Let Me the Journey.
Yes.
That experience earlier and got chastised. Let Me the Journey on YouTube. Yeah. Check them out. It's fun. They travel all around talking to people, random people, friends. It's a good time. So check them out too. Actually, we'll come back and visit with Sean here and his business partner April and talk more about that in another episode, which is we're excited to do. So that's
2 times. We love it.
Good times, great oldies, right?
Yes. Why not?
All right. Sean, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me and your 7 listeners. Thank you for listening.
I love all 7 of them.
Damn right.
Equally. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for listening to the Mighty Books Podcast.
Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.